Got one of your biggest fans here, Amy.
What's that?
Sarah. Sarah.
Oh, yay! Oh, the pressure's on.
Hello, Amy.
Hi, sweetie. How are you?
Members, hello. Good.
Nice to see you. Nice to
Nice
see
to you too.
you. Okay, gonna talk about Hollywood. When we think of Hollywood glamour, some images might come to mind, and it's the 1930s in Hollywood, and we've got people like Greta Garbo and Clark Gable, and well, they started a type of photography for portraiture that is really quintessential. You look at it and go, oh, that's Hollywood, and the time frame. And there's ways for us to make some of our pictures look a little bit more like this, but you got to know what to look for. So I'm going to go over 3 photographers briefly that were shooting in that time, so you can see a lot of images, and then you'll know what we're looking for when we go into doing our own portraits this way. So there's 3 photographers. Clarence Bull was one of the first ones, and one of the very, very popular. He worked for was MGM, and he became the head of the stills department in 1924. He primarily shot at that time, from 29 to 41, Greta Garbo thought he was the bomb. And so he shot primarily Greta, then he left for his own studio. So this is Clarence Bull. That's about the best picture I can get of Clarence Bull off the internet. But I just wanted you to see some of the things that he shot of Greta Garbo. Mm-hmm. There's so many different looks and so many different lighting styles. This is not Greta, but this is Hedy Lamarr.
Hedy Lamarr.
You can still find, like, if you go to a garage sale and they have Hollywood stills, you can flip them over and they'll be stamped sometimes with George Hurrell's name and his stamp, and that's a keeper for sure. If you ever see that, grab it, and if you don't want it, I'll buy it.
Wow.
You can see one of the very popular things is to get something tack sharp and then let the rest go completely out of focus. This depth of field is very, very shallow. This is another photographer. This is Ruth Harriet Louise, and she at the time was the only female stills photographer or portrait photographer back in the 30s. She was a portrait photographer in New York. She mostly shot friends and relatives, and she was Jewish and decided to come out to Hollywood, and she made her mark quite quickly. And she also became working as a portrait photographer for the studios. You might note too, with men, they give the depth of field is more full, or more depth of field than they do with the women. I love this portrait of hers. Oh my God. That to me is so stunning. And that is something, if you've got someone modeling for you, and just have them lay back and see if you can get a neck, jaw, and ear shot. I mean, God, that's just fantastic. This is Lillian Gish. Now this is George Hurrell. He's my favorite. And look at the camera that he's shooting. That is a serious portrait camera. The piece of glass on that looks like it's the size of a dinner plate. And this is what a set could look like. Those lights are very, very hot. We We don't have to use those anymore. They were dangerous to work around. Those things could come crashing down and they're burning hot. When I was using those at Art Center, I had to always have oven mitts to be able to move those lights up at the booms and things like that. And it just, you feel when you're looking at the portraits that you're right up on the model. You can't even imagine it being in what kind of space. And here it's a big empty studio. They can really roll those lights around and get them just in the right spot. There's dashing Clark.
Amy,
Yes.
when they were doing that, and you say they had to adjust the lighting,
Mm-hmm.
did they have some other sit-in model that they would work with to
Sure.
get the lighting just right, and then the real Greta
Yes.
would
They did.
come in
And
and do her thing without her
I've-
sitting there and her makeup
I've heard,
melting off?
yes, I've heard stories though, that
Step away.
when the real model steps in and the girl, the secretary had dark hair and the model came and she had white hair, they're like, oh my God. And then they had to, start kind of fine tuning but yeah, oftentimes the talent was too expensive to, they just didn't have time to come in and do that. But yeah, often have somebody sit in. And I've done that too. Kids and husband, before I have a client come, I'll just set lights. For a long time, I got a mannequin.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I named her Claudette. I have a whole portfolio of Claudette.
Wow.
Lynn, how dashing. He's just so handsome. Oh, with a cigarette. We don't do that anymore, but boy, isn't that just lovely to have that smoke hanging in the air? I threw that in just for a hook. That's me.
Oh, is it?
I'm 24. I'm in
Oh.
junior college, and we were studying old Hollywood style lighting, and there was 3 of us, and I helped set the lights for mine and the other 2 girls. And this is a vintage clothing from my great aunt. It was from the 30s or 40s, and I shot this in the late 80s.
That's
Wow.
awesome, Amy. That's awesome.
Look how little my waist
Yeah.
was. I'm so happy to have a picture of that.
Neckline, yeah.
And these are George Herbell. I like how her mouth is slightly open. You just get the feeling she's ready to say something. It's just there's emotion in these pictures. Well, I'm just seeing that I've got a mistake. I had a picture of Charles Lawton that the way it was posted in the internet, it looked like that was a picture of Clarence Bull. So I don't have a picture of Clarence Bull. I have now 2 pictures of Charles Lawton. I should know my movie stars a little better if I'm going to do this lecture.
I love
Oh,
it.
wow. I like that.
Yeah,
This
that's
is Anna May Wong. She's a very interesting actress. She's very big at the time, but the poor woman could never get a leading part. She always had these great secondary parts because they didn't want Asian women kissing on screen.
Wow.
Wow, that makes a lot of sense. But I mean, she finally went to Europe and really hit it big. She had some really good first class parts, but boy, she's a very, very smart woman, could speak many languages. She was born and raised in Southern California. And she is one of my all-time favorites. Marlene Dietrich. She's beautiful, and she was a very, very strong person. She had a dynamite sense of herself. Her sister was put into a concentration camp, and Hitler was very much in love with her, and she wanted nothing to do with him. So she had a driver and a big, huge car, and they drove up to the concentration camp, and she walked up and got her sister out.
oh my gosh.
Unheard of.
Wow.
This one, I tried so hard to find a copy of the image This has got a lot of retouching. And her fingers were a little heavier, and they trimmed down her each finger, and the palm of her hand was a little bit heavier. I mean, they really did a lot of retouching. You can see the blinds, how they go a little bit lighter. Well, they had to do that to kind of get in there and do the fingers without having to add those dark lines back in.
Mhm.
Like, she's not beautiful enough. This was one of the last pictures taken of her. I think she was 83.
Wow.
I know, those legs. It's just stunning. She's just stunning. And then so is the photograph. I mean, and those shoes. Wouldn't I love to have those shoes? So now we're going to talk about retouching. And when I was at Art Center, when I was learning how to shoot large format, we had to do retouching on 4x5 negatives. All of this area here, her skin has a lot of freckles and little tiny bumps. And so all of that has been worked out here. So what they do, you can see it in the negative, how much the little white bumps, and then they fill it in with a graphite pencil that's just sharpened ever so slightly, like it's just such a fine point. And what you're doing is just trying to drop graphite onto that negative. You're really not trying to scratch it, because you will have a different problem. Then if you have someplace that is built up, and it will make on the print, will make it white, so it's a negative. You take an etching pin, which is a blade that has a very tiny burr at the end, and you just start picking away at that silver that is tarnished silver on the negative, and then that opens up light to come into the print. They also did the lines on her neck. You can see her skin has just normal lines, but they took all of that out. So Steve sent me a couple pictures. Look at that. Oh my gosh. So he said, can you make that Hollywood? Well, I can't make it like the others, but you can make it more dramatic and a little more dreamy. You can throw things out of focus, but keep the eyes tack sharp.
Mhm.
Good job.
Well, thank you. And then he sent me this one. She's adorable. I mean, how much fun is that? But if you want to put a Hollywood, then you can go something like that.
Wow, that's good. That's amazing.
Want to see it again?
Yeah.
You did. Oh, wow.
Huh.
Hmm.
So with this one, I took pictures of every step that I did to do this. And so we'll go over these briefly, and depending on the time, I have another picture already loaded into Photoshop that I can do a quick one, but it will be basically these same steps. So my screenshots show the whole screen, and this is where I start. And so I go easy peasy, turn it into black and white, where I go, you can see where I go from image, and it drops down. You can see the adjustments is highlighted. I have that menu pop over, and I just choose black and white. So now we've gone black and white. But then I come over, when it's going into black and white, it asks me if I want to adjust within the colors of it's like putting on those old filters when you're shooting black and white. A red filter will make a blue sky go very dark. And you can just slide these around and decide where you think it looks the best. And this is my sliders, where I put the yellow at 60% and the greens at 40. Not every photograph will be that way. It's just your taste. The next step I went to. So this is where my sliders went to for me to get more of a whiter lighting, more of a high key on her face and in her hair. Then I went in and you can see over here, the lasso tool is highlighted, and I went in and I did a lasso of just easy peasy fast lasso of her face. And then I went to inverse because I don't want anything happening to her face. I am switching it around. So what I'm working on would be the background. You can see that I've gone to filter by looking at the filter here. And my favorite one, you go to blur, and I like the Gaussian blur. I use that one most of all in portraiture, or a lot. I use Gaussian blur a lot. This will tell me when I go into Gaussian blur what my radius is. If I swing this scale all the way to the right, it'll be so blurry you won't have any detail, and you'll just have a face poking out of the blur. Now I go up to I will deselect her. When you have it done, it's like the little marching ants. I will deselect that, and then I went and did another one. So I did another select, and I come in tighter on her face. So now her forehead and her ears will start to and the crow's feet are going to start getting some of that blur going on. I chose Gaussian blur again, and I like 3.4 in my steps. You can do any one that you like. That's not a done deal. But you can see this little thing that attaches her collar together is called a frog, and you can see how that frog now is starting to get more and more blurry, because each time I'm adding 3.4 radius pixels of blurriness, and it gets more and more. But where I don't have as much is on her forehead. So it looks like I've got one of those old lenses that gives me that shallow depth of field. Now I'm going to start working closer in her eyes. You can see that little strip going across her nose. It's just the same brightness, or not focus, as her eyes. Well, I need to fix that, and I need to come around and do some handiwork up close. So I'm going to choose a blur tool, and I'm choosing now the size. You can see I'm just going to take very small pixels, so a very low amount of pixels. There's the blur. On this time I'm going to dodge. I'm going to take care of some of these dark areas. And I've got it set to midtones. This is helpful for me to go back and do it again. Okay, let's see the difference. Okay, look at the whites of her eyes. So I'm starting to bring some of those eyes forward. Now I've got the clone tool highlighted. Remember the talk that I gave on doing putting highlights in eyes? Because she doesn't have any of those incident highlights going on, and she's going to be a movie star. She really needs to have something. So I tried to get where you could see where I chose a white from her hair. So it would be a logical white in the rest of the picture. And I worked on the whites of her eyes more. Let's go back and take a look. And now I'm trying to just I just kept working on the whites then. And there I put the highlights in her eyes. There's without, and there's the highlights. Okay, and then I did a lot more dodging. I went in and and now I've got the shadows here marked, and if you do that and you start waving your little wand around, it will only lighten up the dark wrinkles because they are so dark, they're in the shadow value. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay. Now I've got the blur tool opened up. I've gone back to Dodge. See okay, all right, I've gone back into the burn tool and I wanted to put in a nice vignette. The vignette helps bring the eye to her face. Okay. Clone tool, probably, oh, I was taking out some sunspots that she had. Let me go back a couple here. You see in her cheek down here and over here, there's some sunspot. She actually has quite nice skin, but we're doing a Hollywood picture and I'm starting to remove some of those. I worked on her eyebrows too.
Wow.
Now I'm going into liquefy. I know you guys have a good time doing, you know, really abstract stuff, but I do use liquefy a bunch in portraiture. So over here, when you're in liquefy, I can do a lot of stuff. I worked on her smile and the tilt of her eyes. Let's see, the nose width. I made her nose more narrow. Kind of hard to see when the picture kind of jumps back and forth. Width. I narrowed her face. Her jawline is getting a little pudgy because she's older.
Oh, yeah.
Just watch her jawline and I'll keep bouncing back and forth.
Yeah.
And on this one, I'm doing, I tilted her eyes up a little bit. Let's see if we can. Oh, I widened her eyes. I made her eyes bigger. Just watch her eyes. That's a little narrower. She's looking at you like, I don't believe you. And she's like, oh, yes, I do. It's just a little bit.
Yeah.
Did I work on her smile here? Oh, yeah. Okay, watch her mouth.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's something.
Mhm.
I'm like, I need to be using that on all my photos.
I know, sometimes I wake up in the morning and go, oh, I wish I could just sort of dodge this.
Mm.
That's really great.
Okay.
You do that in class.
Yeah, when I was working, you know, on my own, this probably took me about 10 minutes.
Wow. Oh, yeah.
Oh,
Very nice.
Let's see, her eyebrows. See her, it almost like she's got
Uh-huh.
double eyebrows, and it's just really a fold of the skin going up, getting ready to go over her eye, and it's this right in here. And so I took all of that out. And I also, in black and white, when I first went black and white, let me go to that because that's kind of interesting. All right, so I'll go to the. Okay, her lips look really pale. It just didn't pick up any of that. And so I went back in and did a little burning over the lips to give them what would make her look like she's got red lipstick on, or a light red. Now I've got, it's 3:42. Do you want me to go into Photoshop in a different image and watch me work it?
Sure.
Yes.
All right. Okay. All right. All right. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go into black and white. So I go into image, adjustments, and there's many different ways to go into black and white. Okay, so don't I'm not telling you this is the only way to do things. I go into black and white, and this is where it shows me how the different colors would be affected. And I just start moving things around. There's no cyan in that picture. Green, cyan, I'm not surprised in that. There's not much blue in there. All right, I'm happy with that. Okay. Now I'm going to use my lasso tool. Sometimes I have to check my layers. I'm going to merge down so everything works. If you get into a problem and your tools aren't working, go and see if you need to merge things down. And then I'm going to go into the lasso, and I'm going to do a big loose kind of lasso around here. I think I'm going to capture that hand too and treat it like the face because it's right up on the face.
Do you ever, never mind.
Okay. And then I'm going to go up to select, and I'm going to inverse because I want to keep her face looking fine. I'm going to go to filter. I'm going to go to blur and choose Gaussian blur. And this is at 1.7. I think I'll crank it up. Let me just go show you that how it can't even handle that. There you go. It's so blurry. It looks like she's looking through ripped paper or something.
You
Okay.
ever had a feather on your selection?
Okay, hang on a second. Select. Now I deselect. I'm going to select again. So a feather on my selection. So now I'm going to come in. So up, you mean up here where?
Yes,
Where's
where
the-
you put a feather on it so it
I don't see a feather.
softens
I don't
the
see a-
correction.
I don't see a feather on that, Lawrence. I do when I use things like cloning. When you go up there, well, oh, there. The hardness.
Yeah,
Okay, well, let me go back to this and see if there's a hardness there. Okay.
so the blur is gradual
I
in
don't,
that
oh, there,
area.
feather, okay. What would you suggest I start at, like 16 or? Give it-
It depends on the size of your image.
All right, so we're just gonna do this. And now I'm gonna get that earring in there because I do want that to get blurred eventually. All right, I'm gonna select, I'm gonna inverse, I'm going to filter, I'm going to blur, Gaussian, and do it again. And she's starting to go real soft in that cleavage area. So I'm gonna say that's fine. I'm gonna deselect this one. Now I'm gonna come in and do a lasso here. Let's do it over. Come on, people. Okay. Again, select, inverse, filter, blur, Gaussian. Okay. And deselect.
I've never heard of the word Gaussian before.
I always think of it as like looking through gauze.
Oh, okay.
I don't know if that's really why, but all right, now I'm just going to do her eyes. All right, same thing. Select, inverse, filter, blur. Now I think it's getting kind of crazy. I think I'm gonna lighten up on that. Select and deselect. Now I'm gonna go in and work closely to, what am I gonna do? I think I'm going to dodge out or highlight it, her eyes. And exposure 45 is way too much. I'm going to come down here just because I know that already. And I'm just going to scope around her eyes. And I'm going to hit these highlights a couple times, just stamp them and make sure they're nice and bright. Ooh, I like the highlight on her lip too. That's kind of pretty. And then I'm gonna go over with blur, the blur tool right here. And I'm just gonna, because I know I didn't get any of that. Her skin looks pretty good. All right. I don't have to put a vignette on it because it's already dark around. And let me.
Is that a ring on her left finger or blur
Yeah.
or what?
It is a big honking diamond. I'm going to save.
Is this somebody famous or not?
She'd like to think she is. There she is. I have to think about how to get the original back in there because I didn't save it as. I can do this. All right.
It's a PSD. Maybe you need to
Oh,
change it to
why?
change it and save it as a JPEG.
Thank you. All right. You know what? You can help me with that because recently I've been having some troubles because they don't offer just JPEG. Let me go in and.
So you have to do it as save as a copy.
Oh,
And then you can here change the format in the, right there and change. Oh God. Why aren't you getting JPEG?
I don't know. That's what I've had another image I was going to add in today, and I just could not figure it out. It's like something new that I can't.
Hit cancel for a minute.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, try using the export to get as a JPEG. File export,
Well,
export as, and that's where you select it.
oh, there it is.
There it is, format JPEG.
Hmm.
There must be a preference somewhere because when I do save as a copy, in that case, it gives me the JPEG option.
Here's another one. This is the one I couldn't get to transport over. I shot this in college. So I go to File, Export,
Export as,
Export as. And there's my JPEG.
and now you choose
Wow,
JPEG in this case.
I choose JPEG again.
If that's what you want as a JPEG.
The
Yeah, okay,
default,
great.
the default is JPEG when you do that.
Do what, Steve?
When you select that, the default is JPEG
Okay, yeah,
right at the top. So
thanks. I gave up on that. I just thought, I don't know what's wrong. I was really tired by the time I got to that. And I went, oh, darn it.
Have you considered what you can do with his glasses there on the left side, on the right side of his face?
Oh, those are great.
Yeah, what's wrong
The
with that?
highlights.
You can put a picture in it.
What, I really worked hard on those. What, you want me to do something to him?
Well,
Yeah.
the way on our left, his right, it looks like his face is pulled out.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I just
Which it
thought it
would
looked
be.
like the reflection in the glass.
Yeah, it would be going through glass.
You
Yeah.
can put an image of what he might be looking at.
Yeah, anyhow, that's okay.
All right. And there we go.
Very nice.
Thank you.
Good. Amy, I have a question.
Yes.
Did you find any portraits of Lena Horne or Eartha Kitt during that time period? Because
You know,
I know that they
they're-
were
yeah. Her and
photographers
Billy-
had to do a different style and different lighting for African Americans, and Eartha Kitt and Lena Horne were famous during that period.
Yes, they were. You know what? Let's just, can I get on the online and get around this Zoom thing?
You can you can close that.
In Google.
I could close this.
that.
Dorothy Dandridge also.
I just go back to Zoom.
You clicked on the wrong thing.
Oh, man.
Click on your browser. Where's your browser?
Safari. There we go.
Yeah. First person I've met who actually uses Safari. Eartha Kitt.
Oh, come on. Quit dropping down, man.
Mm.
What I want are images. I didn't want to get in here. Eartha Kitt. I don't want Wikipedia.
If you search with Google, it'll give the option of choosing images.
There it is up in the upper left.
Images right there. See on the right, on the left.
Oh, wow.
There you go.
I don't know. What do you think, Anthony? I think a lot of the lighting is just the same. But you know what? Well, the lighting is really, really harsh because they always wanted the women of color to look white. Except here, this is more traditional and more accurate.
That's what I was talking about, Amy. I was thinking about how they made the skin tone lighter.
Oh, they were notorious.
Uh-huh.
I mean, that was one of the crimes of the time, right?
Right.
And it's like the Asian actress, Anna May Wong. I mean, she couldn't even get, she was doing these role after role after role. She was a very sought after actress, but not for who she was. And she couldn't kiss another actor, especially a white actor, on film. They weren't ready for anything like that. It's, you know, we can do, I don't think it's right. I think it's wrong, but it also happened. And I hate to not talk about it today. Because that was, you know.
Can you please
the
tell my
crimes.
wife it's okay now?
Will do.
Well, there she is, very white.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah. Who's another one?
Interesting to see how they did Lena Horne.
Yeah,
Did
you know what? One of my, I
Dorothy
had
Dandridge?
let me look up, see if I can find, it was a record, Ella Fitzgerald.
Oh, yeah. And Lena Horne.
Dorothy Dandridge.
Yeah.
Right.
Is Dorothy the one that put her foot in a swimming pool and they made him drain it?
Yes.
Yes.
Oh,
Okay, this is
Are
it.
you kidding?
No,
I owned
True.
I
My
owned this
God.
record and
Oh, wow.
I sold it. I sold it, but they gave her blue eyes.
Huh.
Oh
Wow.
my
Those are blue
God.
eyes in that. And I owned that record and I was a little girl looking at that going, she had blue eyes? Because the other one, all these other records we had of her had brown eyes. Like, how did she get blue eyes? And my mom was like, oh my God, that's ridiculous. One of the
Oh.
greatest singers of the world, and we can't accept how she looks. And she's gorgeous. I mean, she's gorgeous. But it just, I know today we're doing stuff that people are going to look back on and go, do you remember when we used to do that? I mean,
I think it's important that we, have some way of being able to let people know how they thought in those days, just so we can understand the conflicts that they had. I mean,
I agree.
that's-
I agree.
That's what
These
they're trying to stop in
schools-
school.
Yeah,
we need
I
to
know, they're-
understand how confused they were.
absolutely. And Tom Sawyer, they want to ban Tom Sawyer.
Oh,
Uh,
wow. Yeah.
Yeah.
We don't want to forget. We want to move on and live better lives and make better choices. But
Absolutely.
I also had, I'm pointing to it, this record here. It was beautiful, but I found I can get that on Spotify. So it was the one with Satchmo,
Oh,
Mhm.
wow. Wow.
Ella and Satchmo. What a great record.
That's such a collection right there. That's cool.
Yeah. My parents were jazz lovers. And I gave the records away when I moved, but
Yeah.
I gave it to a man that collected. He's jazz on vinyl. He didn't care what it was. He just loved it. And he's got one of the biggest collections in the Western United States. And I thought, you know what? Let him have it. I am done taking care of it. I don't have a record player and I want someone else to make sure they don't get too hot, too cold, and scratch free. And I gave away the collection.
I have between 600 and 745 RPM records
Oh,
between the middle 50s
Oh.
to the middle 75s.
Wow.
Man,
I'm sure
that's
I
great.
have a large collection of 33s.